Hello, Troy. How are you, mate?
Good, brother. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Glad
That's
and
good.
happy that you are joining for episode 2.
Two. Raw.
Rua. Yeah. So, welcome back to the first 7 years by Footy Nippers, the show where we unpack movement, culture, coaching, and confidence through the lens of early childhood. My name is Jimmy, and I'm one of the co-founders of Footy Nippers.
Kia ora te whānau. Ko Troy Takawengoa. My name is Troy, coach, parent, and a proud Māori.
And today we are going to deep dive into why early years sports we feel is somewhat failing and why movement, play, and culture need to come first. Lovely sound as well.
Hydration is key.
Hydration is key, mate. It is really key. Okay, so look, I think it's no surprise, but I might kick this one off, but it goes without saying, but a lot of the clubs that I've spoken to and dealt with globally, especially when we were pushing GG through all lots of clubs worldwide, the youth numbers are not there. They're struggling to get juniors into their junior program at clubs, and this is across multiple sports. And from the stories I've heard is, a lot of the times when they do recruit well, they're going into schools, which is good, and they're being proactive. But kids today are different. Sometimes the kids turn up, before they didn't have any distractions. They would come into a family. They were coming not just to play sport, to be involved in a great environment. But a lot of the times when kids turn up now, they're on their phones. They don't stick around after. And really what it's doing is it's kind of eroding the culture of the club. Now, sometimes also what I'm seeing is the numbers that the unions release. The youth part is growing. It's growing astronomically. But it's a different conversation when I speak to all these clubs about what's going on. I don't know. I'm keen to get your thoughts around the reality of what's going on with youth sport. Are we just dealing with fundamentally different kids than what we were growing up? Are we approaching it in the right way? And ultimately, are these kids turning up to clubs without the foundational skills that are needed to, I guess, enjoy why they're there in the first place?
Bro, 100%. Well, this is going back 30 years now, how we were brought up, right? So, yeah, we can always say we didn't have digital devices back then. I know for a fact that the rugby club was my second home. So if I wasn't at home, my home, I'll be at the rugby club. And that was pretty much every night of the week, one night during the weekend, and where all my teammates were all family members, their parents, my aunties and uncles, and that's where you wanted to be, right? Whereas now, a rugby club now is where obviously it's an opportunity where kids can play sport, they can socially interact. Deep down is a place where where parents drop them off and pick them up, a couple of hours later. Are these kids, staying after the games? Are they being amongst it? Now, just through my experience, bro, is that I do see that a lot of I do see it around the world where a lot of kids are treating like their second home, but a lot of kids are just getting up and leaving. Right? It might come down to the experience of digital devices. I don't know. It's still playing on my mind a bit. But it definitely, in terms of like the fundamental skills, like it's not all about winning, bro. It's about participation. And I know although there are a lot of coaches that want to win, but end of the day, you got to get players being out there, giving it a go. Everyone has to have a go, and then just building a culture within your team to help succeed together. And showing a really good performance.
Yeah, look, I think that's really valid. And as we've said in the first episode, sport is what we attribute who we are to. Yeah, and clubs, we were part of the clubs, whether they were football, rugby, all growing up. So they hold a very important and special place in my life. And they also hold a very important part in the kids' lives now and into the future. But it's more calling into question, like, if I'm a parent and I send my kid to a club, what is it that I actually want my kid to achieve? Because it's not about winning. We know that. And we know winning is not the thing we need them doing. We need them to be focused on smiling, playing and having fun. But like, if you're a parent and you send your kid to a club, what do you expect? What's your thinking?
Bro, I think when you look at, bro, sport in general, man, rugby in general, has so much special values in it where a kid is going to be learning 24/7, right? This is off the field. Respect, discipline, fair play. And they will develop these skills at a rugby club through either their coach, their peers that they're playing with, because they all live by the values. They're the ones that are driving discipline. They're the ones that are communicating about respect. And also as well, people around the club. And as soon as you step into those grounds, you have to respect those values, and that's the way you live. But the most importantly about rugby, bro, is that once they step out of those grounds, they still have to be that same person. And that's one thing I love about rugby, man. And I've seen a massive change in people. And I think the beauty about it as well, when you're on that rugby field or at training, you don't just represent yourself, you represent your family, so by learning those values and stuff within the rugby environment, you need to take it home. For me, I think that's a big reason why a lot of parents send their kids to rugby. But of course, bro, you got like dads, mums that have played rugby in the past that just absolutely love the sport, love the clubhouse, love the whole feeling about it.
Yeah, okay. No, that's really good. And like a few things that really pop to mind, like as a parent to be myself soon, is safety, social development, fun, smile. Like for me, the smile is the biggest thing. If there's a smile on the face and the kids are having a great time, then that's really important. But the question around numbers, the question around screen time, the question that comes to my head is, are parents getting that same feeling from club sport that my parents used to get growing up with me, And I guess it's kind of comparing two different generations, but it's really important to understand what it is that you want to achieve when you send your kid to a club. And you just highlighted it very, very clearly there. But, for me, I feel that they're different age groups, right? When you send your kid to a club, usually they started around under fives, especially when you get Ripper and stuff like that. But the development that a kid undertakes from, 18 months through to 5 to 7 years old, and then they're just completely different kids. Their brain develops differently. They've learnt different things. They need to focus on different skills. So at a younger age, it's more just about balance and coordination. But once you get to 5 and 7, you've now got a ball in your hand. So you bring in that more complex learning and those complex skills. Are clubs fit to know that the kid at under 5 is learning or doing the right things? I'd like to get your view on that.
Bro, I 100% agree. We have new kids that have come to the game, bro. And our rugby whānau, bro, like we're always grateful and we're always open to any kid, shape, size, race, culture, anyone. And the biggest setback for coaches at a young age is when you have new entries into rugby, because obviously they don't understand the sport, but also you have such a massive difference in terms of fitness levels. So when we're talking about 18 months up to 6 years, and then they get gone to a club, if they've had those foundational skills, or that base is so important. And bro, I think just to go back to it, it stems down to, I thought school was hard back in my day, but I know how straining it is now, man, in terms of how knackered these kids are, how much homework they have to do, and a lot of kids don't actually have the energy or the motivation to go to training, so I don't know, it could be another conversation about what they're doing in schools, but we're talking about strong kids. If they're mentally fatigued, physically fatigued, maybe just during at school, like they need to find time to have more movement, at that sort of younger age, so they can really kick on if they were, going into a rugby club at 6 years old, and being at a level where, kids, obviously you have your different types of kids as well, bro. You have those kids where parents that have that time, to get outside and share more structured physical sessions with their children. And this is not saying or, talking about any sort of parents that don't have that time, because I know how tough life is these days. Parents are working from 9 to 6, 9 to 8 in the evenings. It's just the way it is. But so yeah, it's great to your question, bro. Like, it depends on terms of the upbringing, especially at that early age.
Yeah, look, I think the also when you take your kid to a club, and the stat that I used to work off with GG, which was our lead M1, was 80% of coaches are parents or volunteers. Without volunteers, clubs don't work. And you would know that very clearly, and so do I.
100%.
So at that point, when you've got someone who's volunteering or a parent who's putting their hand up because no one else would, coaching these kids that are 5 years old, doing the right things to help them. Now, a lot of people go, well, it's not rocket science. And it isn't, right? It's about having fun. But, when we dive deeper into footy nippers and we found, there is a way to coach these young kids. There is a way to focus on certain things. There's a way to storytell and use the culture to get them engaged. There is a lot more in-depth thinking that goes into what these kids need at certain ages. So it really started to open up my mind. I know when we spoke around, maybe there isn't necessarily the right program for these young kids when you go into that club environment. I'm not saying they're doing a bad job, but people don't know any different. So yeah, do you kind of see that as well? Do you see there being alternatives to that? What's your view?
Bro, 100%. It's the coaching's key, right? Kids need to learn. They need to understand what they're learning, but why they're learning it, right? And to go back to your point there, our game is so beautiful, and we're also lucky to be a part of this game just because of the volunteers out there. So all the volunteers that are out there, massive total to you guys, because you guys are setting us afloat, and bro, the most important thing is we need educated coaches, and a lot of clubs, and thankfully we have amazing parents out there that can go in there and they can fill the spots, because one year you might have 30 kids. You need 4 coaches to be there, so getting coaches and parents in there, they can help cover and run sessions. Whereas, maybe clubs that don't really have the opportunity to have coaches, they're all parents. And I think the most important thing is they need to be well educated. And these different types of things when you're coaching as well is that don't just coach the drill, coach the skill. As an example, where a lot of the stuff is all online, we see beautiful drills on maybe YouTube or, social media, but it's easy to watch a drill and lay it out and then see or tell our youth how it's run rather than actually coaching the specific skill. Like a couple of examples, like don't be the problem, be the solution. Like a lot of coaches get, just as in a couple of examples, we all get tied up where one easy drill might go wrong, but we might start blaming players where it could be the coach itself. But I just think that, a club has to put more emphasis on educating coaches, making sure that they feel comfortable. And I can go on and on here, but, I think the biggest thing for me is all about planning and making sure that coaches are well planned out at least, 10 months in advance, because, we have respect to all the parents out there, all the coaches that, work 9 to 5 and they have to rush to the training straight from work. And if they're not prepared and they're driving to training sessions, trying to put a training session in their head, it's not easy, man. Like, you need to go.
That's the reality though, right? That's the reality for the majority of who coach these at that kind of grassroots level. Like, I know that like in New Zealand, they had the small black courses, which I've been fortunate enough to attend them with Waikato Rugby, and we were presenting a few things across some of the other unions we worked with, and with Hawke's Bay and Otago, and they do a good job of educating at the start. But I mean, at the moment, that's just one session that mandatory they attend, especially if you get into tackle technique and things like that at those older levels. But, one session and then off you go. It feels to me like, that can be a bit tough, especially when some parents are thrown in the deep end. So look, I think at the end of the day, it's more important that you have a coach and that you have someone present to guide the kids around, and then they can find videos and learn. But obviously the solution to that is it's hard, because without the volunteers and them putting their hands up, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's
I
the other
believe,
side of
bro,
the coin.
Honestly, man, every coach needs a mentor. Like, you need, because every coach has an amazing way they look at rugby. Anyone can build up their own philosophy, but I just think that every coach needs a mentor. Like, I have a lot of experience, around the world, but I still talk to people, close people, like about my experiences, how it could change things. You'll hear their advice, you'll take it in, you may not agree with it, but I just think you need a close group that you can rely on. And this, if I'm speaking like this, I know that a lot of people would as well. How come, inexperienced and new coaches don't have that support basis too?
Yeah, 100%. I kind of felt that vibe, especially with some of the unions we were dealing with GG. But one in particular, I know Hawke's Bay had check-ins for some of their core groups, which I thought was a really good idea throughout the year. But
Nice.
I mean, this is when you need to know on the fly, what am I doing? How am I going to deliver this? And obviously the big thing that's been heroed for that younger age is not doing a drill, but making it a game, doing a game-based scenario, which gets all the kids involved. So they're not standing in line waiting for my turn, because you lose them, their attention span goes. So I think that approach to coaching rugby is really important. But once again, when you go down that level, it starts to change even more. When you get sub 5 years old, you need to find other ways to make it engaging and other ways to make it very inclusive and to get them smiling and enjoying it. And, that's a big thing that will lead me essentially on to footy nippers here, which is, we have seen the power of the Māori culture, the storytelling element, and knowing that at that younger age, captivating their minds, getting them thinking about how they're part of the story and they're on the journey together. It's like going on a bear hunt. We used to do that as kids growing up. That's still, I've got a friend who told me the other day, that's Louis was the son's name. That's his favorite thing for him to do. And he plays that game with his kid all the time. You know that these things have lasted the test of time. We know that there's something in there that clicks in their mind. So, one of the big things we are heroing within Footy Nippers is how that story can ultimately get them to be doing things that are going to benefit them, which is the movement, the play, the coordination. And I think, when you get below that 5 years old, and I know we go up to 7, then, that's a very good sweet spot as to where Footy Nippers sits. But also, on the flip side of that, yes, clubs open their doors at 5 years old, but I've spoken to a lot of parents and have a lot of feedback that sometimes they feel their kid's not ready. They're not ready for the big environment with lots of kids around. Yes, of course it's good for them, but they want something more bespoke, something more tailored, something where they know their kid's developing. And once they might hit 6, they go, cool, they're now ready for that club environment. The way we're positioning GG to provide that alternative, to really understand the science behind what works for these kids, I think is what's going to really help set us apart and give the best advantage to get these clubs full of juniors going forward. So we're not going against them. We're working with them, right? We're helping them, which is the main part.
100%. I think the biggest thing is confidence, right? Confidence that they can do anything, confidence that they can run fast, confidence that they can hold a conversation, confidence that they can compete. And when they have the confidence like that, then that's when they start believing in themselves. And if you look at storytelling, especially like the Māori storytelling as well, the end goal is all about belief.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
if you don't build the confidence over your micro drills or games, your belief is not going to be there. But if you, over repetition, if you grow that confidence, then you can believe you can get there.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Yeah.
I
That's
knew you
really
liked that
cool.
one.
I actually did. Like, it's like
I know
that
you like that one.
belief. And I always bring back to Maui and the sun. I'm going to stop that sun. That's my belief, And like, as a kid, if they feel like they're on that adventure, look, why do they love games? They feel like they're entrenched in it. They feel like they are in the game, right? Look, it's the
Yeah.
graphics that some of these games have, like Call of Duty. Like, it's unbelievable. We need to really captivate that thinking, the whole, like, you're actually in this journey with Maui. You're part of the tribe. You're part of the warrior group that's been sent up to get the sun. Like, little
Yeah.
things like that, I feel like I still love my Lord of the Rings and those type of series. So like, I could feel like I was in that even at an adult age. Bring me on. Maybe I should do a Footy Nippers adults. I would actually go and join myself. Yeah,
But the exactly, bro, is like coming together to tell that story. The sun went too quick around the world, so they had to slow it down, right? We needed our kaimana, our food to grow. We needed our plants to grow. We needed life. And if that sun wasn't going to slow down, obviously people were struggling. So they had the belief to go slow that sun down. There's a reason why, I think storytelling is massive. Also as well, I think as coaches, like being able to go in there and share that passion with kids.
Can you tell for the people listening, tell them what happened in the Maui and the Sun story. What did they do? So, like, what is the end result? They trekked up to find the sun, tell them the end of the story.
Yeah, they pulled it down and slowed it right down, and there comes the light of day again.
Yeah, cool. So there's always like because it makes you think, like, there's so many things in that story alone. Like, they obviously had, what did they use? They used the flax to create the ropes. Is that correct? And
They
then
they used
obviously,
they used the flax together. I don't know if anyone's tried to get a flax rope. It's all about weaving. It's all about special connection, working together. You can do it by yourself, but it's quite hard. You need other people to help you weave a flax, right, or a rope. It's all about working together. You know, that connection, that bond, then having that confidence to execute what they wanted to do in togetherness. So, an amazing story. I think that is what month 7.
in our curriculum, month 7, week 3, or no, week
3.
2. I think
Week
it's
3.
Week 3. And there's a whole raft of these stories. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. So, yeah, look, I think in summary, this isn't bagging clubs, right? This is about enabling clubs. This is about providing pathways for clubs to get those junior numbers back up. And ultimately, the sport of rugby teaches values. It teaches core things that we want our young female kids and young male kids to aspire to have. And even speaking with another friend the other day who lives in Spain, he said when he talks about rugby to his Spanish friends, they all acknowledge that as the sport that builds great humans. And when I heard that, I thought that was really cool. So, we have a duty to protect that. And at a young age, we know the power of what the rugby ball can do with ball in hand. Now, whether the kid goes on to play another sport, for me, that's perfectly fine. It's just giving them an opportunity to learn, have fun, and build foundational skills that they will use later on in life, because that's the advantage, and that's what ultimately Footy Nippers is going to provide.
Yeah, but just for that, Jimmy, like the biggest thing with clubs, it's all about their curriculum. Okay, so the resources, the curriculum, and how they grow as a club under their philosophy. They need coaching people in place, right? And then maybe like a third pillar is all about recruitment. And like I think what Footy Nippers can do, bro, is help a lot of clubs around the world that have that foundational movement base that can go in there and excel at a young age. And we don't want to see our numbers in our beautiful sport drop, right? And also as well, we have our little tiki there, which is the ball, our guardian angel. They'll look over all our tamariki. But it's not only for rugby, it's about functional movement.
I know it's in the logo, but there's a little tiki right there.
Yeah.
And there's the corals in the middle.
Yeah, so it's foundational schools where, our youth can utilize and grow, and I think for us, it's been able to give the opportunities for the kids at all sports. And then, our goal or vision will be to, help these clubs out that don't really have the numbers.
Yeah, cool. I love that. And I think, like, in summarizing, if you get the foundations right at a young age, you get them moving and playing, everything else becomes easier, and you're really setting the tone for how the next years in their life is going to be. So with Footy Nippers, if we are achieving that result, we're achieving the result we've set out to do from the very start. So anything else you want to add, Troy, or is that it?
Wow, that's amazing. Just want to thank you to everyone that's tuned in and watched us long. Very, very appreciate it. I very much appreciate it. And yeah, we look forward to our next episode, bro.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. Enjoy your day.
Yep. Ka kite.
Cheers. Bye.